Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Well, all I can say is, holy Godzilla. Have you seen the bill for the government to us taxpayers for all the shenanigans that went on out at that ostrich farm? It's a Godzilla-sized bill. Mark Carney says he said what he meant and meant what he said, even though Mr. Besant tried to humiliate him. And what else is going on? Oh, yeah, another person has been shot by an ICE officer, an ICE agent, this time in Arizona. We'll have all that and more when we come back on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're back. So this was Scott Besant telling Sean Hannity that when he was in the Oval Office with Donald Trump, when Mark Carney phoned, Mark Carney walked back many of his Davos China comments. I'm going to play you the clip to set up what Carney says today. He said, let's start with this tonight. So this was, we had this yesterday, but bringing it back here now. I don't know, did we mention this? I might not have mentioned it. I wanted to. I should have if I didn't. Anyway, here we go.
And interest rates will be down significantly. They're already down quite a bit. Let's talk about the Prime Minister, or if you prefer, Governor of Canada, and him threatening to break economic alliances with the U.S., go with China. The president has threatened a 100% tariff. What impact would that have?
It would be a disaster for Canada. I was in the Oval with the president today. He spoke to Prime Minister Carney, who was very aggressively walking back some of the unfortunate remarks he made at Davos. And Sean, I'm not sure what the Prime Minister was thinking. Of course, Canada depends on the U.S. There's much more north-south trade than there could ever be east-west trade. He talks about middle countries having to do their own thing. And I'm old enough to remember when French President Francois Mitterrand tried to go down that route. It failed back in the 80s. It'll fail now. And Canada is linked to the U.S., and the Prime Minister should do what's best for the Canadian people rather than trying to push his own globalist agenda.
I'm going to play it again and comment.
And interest rates will be down significantly. They're already down quite a bit. Let's talk about the Prime Minister, or if you prefer, Governor of Canada.
Okay, so right there. He's using the word governor just like Trump did. Well, it's an insult. These guys are humiliators. This is what they do down there. I'm tired of it. Honestly, I'm editorializing, but hey, if you can call our Prime Minister governor, I can say I'm tired of him calling our Prime Minister governor, because it's an insult not just to Mark Carney, it's an insult to all of Canada. Sean Hannity, who I used to think was an okay guy. Not so much these days. And Mr. Besant.
And him threatening to, break economic alliances with the U.S.
He didn't threaten to break economic alliances with the United States. Donald Trump said he doesn't need anything. And the United States doesn't need anything from Canada. See, they flip the script. They flip it upside down and blame the people that they're attacking, saying that you're the aggressor when you defend yourself.
China, the president has threatened a 100% tariff. What impact would that have?
It would be a disaster for Canada. I was in the Oval with the president today. He spoke to Prime Minister Carney, who was very aggressively walking back some of the unfortunate remarks he made at Davos.
Was he? Was he really walking it all back very aggressively? These guys. Could you imagine if anybody from Canada spoke about Trump that way? Anybody in a position of consequence? Could you imagine if Mark Carney started talking like that about Donald Trump? Look what happened when Justin Trudeau was caught laughing at Trump. Trump threw a temper tantrum, and things were never the same after. But it's okay for them to spin up a narrative to humiliate people. Not just Mark Carney, they do it to everyone. It's, I don't know, man. I think these guys should be careful, because I think it's when you act like that, when you behave like that, it has a way of coming back around and biting you on the butt. Here's Mark Carney today saying he stands by his comments in Davos. Here we go. And being very diplomatic still, very much the diplomat, choosing his words very carefully, delicately, understanding the delicate position Canada is in with the United States.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that you walked back your comments on Davos in a conversation with Mr. Trump. Is that the case, Prime Minister?
As I said, well, first off, the President called me yesterday. We had a very good conversation on a wide range of subjects, ranging from situation in Ukraine, Venezuela, Arctic security, We discussed as well what Canada is doing positively, and this is the context of our discussion, what Canada is doing positively to build new partnerships around the world. I explained to him our arrangement with China. I explained to him what we're doing, 12 new deals on 4 continents in 6 months. He was impressed. And what we intend to do going forward, as well as the opportunity to, of course, move forward on CUSMA. You will note that Minister LeBlanc had discussions with one of his counterparts in the last 36 hours about some of the modalities and things on the way forward. But to be absolutely clear, and I said this to the President, I meant what I said in Davos. It was clear it was a broader set of issues, that Canada was the first country to understand the change in U.S. trade policy that he had initiated, and we're responding to that. We're responding positively by building partnerships abroad. We're responding positively by building at home, and we're prepared to respond positively by building that new relationship through CUSMA. He understood that, and it was a good conversation, as I say.
So you didn't walk back your comments?
No.
Yes, hi.
It was he knows how to speak. Right? Oh. It's like these Trumpsters. They push people into a corner, and then they look for a reaction, and Carney's not giving it to them. So they made up a reaction on Fox News with Sean Hannity, and Sean Hannity weighs in and reinforces the effort. And Carney just comes back today, calm, cool, doesn't take the bait, with a very mature, level response so far. And that speech in Davos, yeah, that was a poke in the eye to Donald Trump. It was. So, I don't know. Let's see where it goes. Here's Melanie Jolie.
Hyundai is part of that delegation. What does that mean for auto workers?
Well, listen, we're happy to have the Koreans in town. This is following the trip I made back to Korea in already November, actually. And so we've been having a lot of conversations. Of course, the Koreans and the Germans are both trying to win the bid for the submarines. A lot of it has to do with what will be the industrial benefits for Canada. So how can we create jobs out of this really important defense investment that will protect our sovereignty and help also our allies. And so that is what we will have as conversations. What can be done to create more jobs in the country?
Hier, M. Ford avait l'air très content de votre politique.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to go back here to English.
Dans un état qui est somme toute pas vivable, mais aussi qu'on va être capable de protéger les emplois.
His comment, or said that Prime Minister Carney walked back his comments on Davos to President Trump last night, or on Hannity. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, the Prime Minister stands by his own words, and I think that he stated the obvious. Why do I say that? Is, you know, Canadians got to know how this administration was reacting way before, I think, the rest of the world. And so I think that his speech resonated so much because he was just stating the truth.
Did he walk back?
Est-ce que M. Carney a reculé lors de son appel? M. Carney a-t-il reculé lors de son appel avec M. Trump? Comme...
No, he didn't walk it back. More. Here we go.
Past, and my answer is always pretty much the same, which is
How is your government preparing for a new 100% tariff?
Sorry, I was just...
No problem.
Yes.
Trump threatened a 100% tariff threat, his most recent one. That was before, obviously, Carney and Trump spoke. How likely are you expecting the 100% tariff to come in? What is your government doing to prepare?
Well, you know, that's a similar question that I've received in the past, and my answer is always pretty much the same, which is when President Trump speaks, we listen and we take good note. But at the same time, until actions are taken, we stand by our position. And our position right now is we had an important trip to China. We have a new strategic partnership with them. We're not seeking a free trade agreement. And at the same time, we'll continue to engage with the White House, and we believe in the strength of the USMCA. So that's what we'll do. We can do both things at the same time.
Est-ce que vous avez pas l'impression justement qu'il y a une confusion sur ce qui a été entendu, sur quoi on s'est entendu avec la Chine, et comment vous allez
Got to do both things at the same time. Trump started it. We're just trying to deal with it. You can support it, criticize it, be for it, against it, or whatever, but what else are you going to do? You just got to deal with it, man. So that's what Canada's doing. That's what Carney's doing. Poilievre would be in the exact same position, I think. I don't know if Trump would be that much friendlier, really, if Carney were the prime minister, if Poilievre were prime minister. Canada facing the same pressures. I think it's just easier for Trump to make an enemy out of Carney. Trump would have been the ultimate, I think, or Trudeau, rather, would have been the ultimate prime minister in this case. But no, he's got Carney. And Carney's turning out to be a little thornier than I think Trump was expecting. But the ride is just beginning. We still have a few more years of all of this. So let's see where it goes. I'll be right back. We've got more on the other side.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
So this situation with ICE in the United States continues to roll out of control, but they are trying to rein it in. Protests continue, chaos continues, and earlier today, another person was shot in Arizona by an ICE agent. Details on this one, not readily available even now, and I'm not seeing online any video of this one. Here's the NBC was the first to report this. Here it is here. One person in critical condition after being shot in an incident involving Border Patrol in Arizona. The individual is in custody and receiving care, according to law enforcement. So we really don't know much at all at this point, except that somebody was shot. Let's go over here to... I think we have it, don't we? Maybe not. We'll come back to it. It happened earlier this morning. NBC got a hold of the story. There are references to it. Here it is here. References to it online, but it's not picking up that as much traction as these other stories. I'm not sure why. I guess because it wasn't a fatal shooting. So this gets us up now to around, I don't know how many in total. 13, 14, 15. Hard to say. And all of that going on. Well, in Minneapolis, the CEOs of some of the biggest companies that employ immigrants, I guess, are offered, have a lot of low wage, entry level wage people working for them, especially, have weighed in on all this, urging de-escalation after the fatal shootings in Minnesota. Here it is here, a coalition of Minnesota's biggest employers, including Target. You've got 3M, United Healthcare Group. They all issued a joint appeal calling for de-escalation of tensions following the shooting of 37-year-old Alex Pretti. So they issued an open letter, which was circulated by the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, signed by more than 60 CEOs. Here, I'll show you the actual letter. And there it is. Minnesota Chamber of Commerce released this letter on behalf of more than 60 CEOs of Minnesota-based companies today. Full text appears below. The business community of Minnesota prides itself in providing leadership and solving problems to ensure a strong and vibrant state. The recent challenges facing our state have created widespread disruption and tragic loss of life for the past several weeks. Representatives of Minnesota's business community have been working every day behind the scenes with federal, state, and local officials to advance real solutions. His efforts have included close communication with the governor, the White House, the vice president, and local mayors. There are ways for us to come together to foster progress. With yesterday's tragic news, we are calling for an immediate de-escalation of tensions and for state, local, and federal officials to work together to find real solutions. We have been working for generations to build a strong and vibrant state here in Minnesota, and will do so in the months and years ahead with equal and even greater commitment. In this difficult moment for our community, we call for peace and focused cooperation among local, state, and federal leaders to achieve a swift and durable solution that enables families, businesses, our employees, and communities across Minnesota to resume our work to build a bright and prosperous future. So you have 3M, Alliance Life Insurance, Salina Health, Anchor Paper, Anderson Corporation, API Group, Atomic Data and Foundations Technologies, Best Buy, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Boston Scientific, Cargill, Carlson, Centricare, CHS, Children's Minnesota, Delta Dental of Minnesota, Donaldson Company, ECMC Group, Ecolab, Entrust Corporation, just goes on and on. A lot of heavy hitters in there. And that just reinforces what a lot of people seem to be saying, which is that these shootings in Minnesota seem to maybe marking a turning point in the Trump administration, a change. Often this happens with a presidency. Once things get rolling, they seem to be going in one direction, and then something happens. A war, a tragedy, a terrorist attack, an economic crisis, something happens. A culture war. And it defines ends up defining the presidency and how it ends up being remembered. It creates the legacy that flows through history afterward. It's what Trump will maybe be remembered for in part. And it certainly is going to set the tone for, at least, I would say, I think this will set the tone for the months ahead. And depending on what happens over the next while with these immigration raids, it could end up defining his presidency. So yesterday, which I did not in the face of all of this division, she says, we need to unify.
To unify. I'm calling for unity. I know my husband, the president, had great call yesterday with the governor and the mayor, and they're working together to make it peaceful and without riots. I'm against the violence, so if you protest in peace. And we need to unify in these times. We need to unify.
I have not. I can tell you, I have not watched the preview of Melania's new movie, which is coming out. And if you're experiencing lag out there, I do apologize. Everything seems to be running smoothly here, but the internet might be lagging a bit in ways that I'm not seeing over here. Now here's more from ABC on the shooting in Arizona involving the ICE agent. Let's bring it up over here. This breaking tonight. Oops, hang on. Here we go.
Lines that we're tracking for you this hour, starting with a canine crisis averted. Rescuers in Missouri struggling, but successfully rescuing a big...
It flipped out of it. Hang on. It flipped out of it. And here we go.
Shooting involving the U.S. Border Patrol in southern Arizona now. That's according to the Pima County Sheriff's Department, which is saying that the shooting happened earlier this morning. We don't know who was shot or the circumstances, but the Sheriff's Department says the patient was taken to the hospital. No word on their condition, but we will continue to track it and bring you more details as soon as we get them.
Yeah, we have our ear to the ground here too, but details pretty thin of this hour. Trump responding to questions today about the Alex Pretti shooting. And I think that this might end up surprising some people because he had some comments about guns, gun rights, or at least comments that affect gun rights, may affect gun rights. Is Trump going to take your guns away now? Or where does he really stand on this? Because he's saying Alex Pretti shouldn't have carried a gun to the protest. But I thought MAGA people were all about guns.
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun. But hey, look, bottom line, everybody in this room, we view that as a very unfortunate incident, okay? Everyone, unless you're a stupid person, very, very unfortunate incident. I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate incident.
Well, you know, it's America, and he had his permit. He was legally allowed to carry. And now Trump is being critical of him having the gun. Yeah, well, I think it's the MAGA side that is pro-gun. We'll see how that all shakes down. Speaking of shakedowns, have you seen this clip? This one here. Just, again, here's that word again, reinforcement, reinforce. This reinforces the perception and maybe the reality that these ICE agents are not very well trained. When he's speaking to someone on the street who, I guess this person is being warned not to raise their voice, because if they raise their voice, this agent says he will erase his voice.
This, brother.
What?
You know, I will tell you this. You raise your voice, I raise your voice.
If I raise my voice, you'll erase my...
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Are you serious? You said if I raise my voice, you'll erase my voice?
Yes. This, brother.
What?
That doesn't help. Up here, where I live, cops are not supposed to talk to people that way. They're trained not to talk to people that way. Really. It's about de-escalation, keeping things calm, cool, collected, right? Keeping the peace. Here's Trump again on the gun thing. Again, this surprises me that he's coming out saying this about the gun, except, of course, they need to use that gun. Even though Pretti was disarmed, they need to use it to keep their narrative in the, well, to give it credibility in order to get the justification they need to exonerate the actions of the two police officers that shot Alex Pretti, because we're seeing tonight that Department of Homeland Security is saying that it was two officers that shot Pretti in the street. Yeah, you can barely hear it because of the engine sounds, but Trump is sitting there saying you can't walk in there with guns. You can't walk in there with guns. Well, you had the permit. You had a carry permit, so yeah, he could actually legally. And what they're trying to do is, I guess, overlay or imply intent. We've seen people in the Trump administration accusing of Pretti of being a terrorist, of going there to massacre people. Those were the words used by the administration, some of them. Trump has walked a lot of that stuff back today. He's distanced himself from a lot of those comments because they seem to be pretty darn extreme, honestly. So we'll see where it all goes. A lot of calls for an independent investigation, including, I believe, from the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota. And whether we get it or not, I don't know. Also, there was a court order issued that is designed to prevent the destruction of any evidence, including evidence that has been seized and is being held exclusively by federal agents. So I just, as I say, it's a turning point, and both sides are digging in pretty hard. But Trump seems to be wading back into the middle here somewhere, trying to find some way to bring order back to the streets, I guess. But good luck to him. And, he says the call with Walz went pretty well, but the protests continue. And while all that's going on, somebody sent me something overnight that, again, it was, I found this very concerning, because I guess that there are a rising number of incidents involving people who are impersonating ICE agents. I've said several times that having law enforcement wear masks and hide their identities, not make their badge numbers or their identities visible, it's a problem, because the public should, generally speaking, have the right to know if someone is a police officer and be able to verify that for a whole bunch of reasons, not just because it helps protect people's rights, but also because it helps to keep people safe. And because a lot of these ICE agents, well, they're wearing these masks to conceal their identities. There are no badge numbers. You don't know who these guys are. Some people, I guess, are out there buying ICE gear, vests, jackets, even fake badges. Some of the stuff you can get on Amazon. And then they're going out and, in some cases, committing crimes and even terrorizing people. So in a way, those people are sort of like domestic terrorists, right? Here's this is a clip from way back in October. And this was at a MAGA event. I'm not sure which event it was. But this was one of the things that was sent to me overnight. So I'll share it with you here. And it just highlights again why it's important for people to know whether, it's like, well, show me your badge before you arrest me.
Do you actually work for ICE?
No, not at all. Nope.
Explain the outfit.
It's $29.99 on Amazon. I would recommend buying a small if you're my size. This one's a little too loose for my liking. But yeah, if you want some entertainment, wear this and go to a Home Depot in a sanctuary city like where I live right now, Washington, D.C., and you'll see all the illegals. Not all of them, but you can maybe see a lot of them start to run away, and you feel like a group fitness instructor. It's really good.
And you actually think that's funny?
I think it's hilarious. Absolutely. What's not funny is them illegally...
There you have it, everybody. One of the worst people I've seen here at CPAC, and that's saying something. Appreciate it.
So yeah, dress up like a nice officer and scare the hell out of some people. Okay. I'm not really into it. Here's more, because that's just one guy doing that, and how serious was he? Maybe, I guess maybe. I don't know. A loudmouth, I guess. Here, this was on the Young Turks, I guess.
Who are you? Now he's calling the cops on us.
This is one in a series of a compilation video. This guy impersonating an ICE officer, I guess. But without
Harvey Freebird.
Hello, my name is Alexander.
And here we go.
Yeah, it's Harvey Freebird. You're being live streamed right now, dumb.
Including with this man posing as a federal agent. 44-year-old Joshua Warner would be arrested at his place of residence. It's rather easy these days.
One of the things that's really a lot of you probably don't see this is people are basically dressing up as ICE agents, disguising as ICE agents, and grabbing people and taking people. And you may think, how is that possible? How can you possibly do that? So I thought, I don't think it's very hard. So I went to Amazon, and here's exactly what I did. The first thing I did was order this. It cost me like $4. So now I can't be identified. Perfect for thugging people. Mask. Then I ordered this vest, $30. Mask, $4. Vest, $30. I didn't order the handcuffs, but you can get handcuffs all over ICE. So now, all over Amazon. All I have to do now, truly all I have to do now, is drive around LA in an unmarked car or anywhere there are Latinos, come screaming at them, take my handcuffs, grab them, put them in my car. Then I can do whatever the f*** I can take their money. I can hold them for ransom. I can turn them in. I'm sure some ICE agents would pay good money knowing how scummy these people are. I am an ICE agent. This is me. I'm an ICE agent. I'm a middle-aged guy, white guy, wearing a green vest, and you can't see my face. And there's nothing you can do about it. So if I capture you, you can't, I'm not showing my ID because I'm an ICE agent. ICE agents aren't showing their IDs. I don't have a warrant because ICE agents aren't showing warrants. I can break your you can't do anything about it. No one's going to stop me. And that's what's going on right now, all over the You don't just have ICE agents grabbing people based on the color of their skin. You have people dressed up as ICE agents, pretending to be ICE agents, seeking out money, seeking out whatever, terrorizing communities.
As sports writer Jeff Pearlman shows on his TikTok page in this video. Hey, I appreciate you.
Yeah. So I thought, well, let's go to Amazon and see what we can get. Let's do that. We'll do a little Amazon scroll tonight. Right here, breathable cotton blend ICE federal agent Halloween costume. This is basically a shirt, says ICE on it. But you know what? Might be all you need to impersonate an ICE agent, given the kind of stuff I see them wearing. Might be enough to convince somebody just this. Here's an ICE agent jacket. they have an ICE agent jacket like that guy had? There is one on here. I looked last night after I saw these videos. I did find one. It wasn't very expensive either. I'm getting winter jackets. Let's put an ICE agent. ICE hat, ICE t-shirts, ICE federal agent t-shirt. But I mean, even if you put that t-shirt on and there's a fake badge, you just flash it at somebody really quick with your ICE t-shirt on. You can buy a vest like this or a green one. And let's just what else? The real important part though is a balaclava. And those are easily obtainable. You can buy one of these things. There's one for $9. So yeah, you too can impersonate an ICE officer, which I'm sure must be an offense, impersonating a peace officer or law enforcement officer. $5.93 for that one. I think that's kind of like the one that guy had. It was $6.99. It's on sale. It's a problem. I can see this being a problem. And there are multiple videos as part of that compilation there showing people doing exactly that and getting into trouble doing it. But it's the people who are not being caught, I guess, that are the bigger problem. And if you are in the country illegally and you have somebody impersonating an ICE officer, who knows what kind of terrible things might be going on. This is why officers should always be required to identify themselves if so asked. The only exceptions, I would say, would be for things like undercover operations. But in those situations, those officers are not out there just knocking on doors and effecting arrests. They're collecting information largely, and sometimes don't even participate in the actual arrests because they're undercover. Everything seems to be upside down these days. And again, that officer saying, if you raise your voice, I'll erase your voice. A cop shouldn't talk like that. And that's not just my opinion. I know that that's in basic training for certainly police up here. And I think for probably most jurisdictions in the United States, ICE officers are going to Italy, I guess. This took me by surprise today. They're going to Italy to assist with security. Here it is here. Here, I'll show you. Right there. Milan mayor slams ICE agent, says militia that kills ahead of 2026 Olympics. So Giuseppe Sala, mayor of the host city Milan, criticized ICE on radio after U.S. officials confirmed the agency's Homeland Security Investigations Unit will assist Italian authorities and the U.S. State Department in vetting threats like human trafficking and cyber risks. From February 6th to 22nd, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security stressed ICE's role is limited under Italian command and excludes immigration enforcement abroad. Of course, it better. But these days, with the way the Trump administration runs things, they kind of make up their own rules. All they would need is some piece of paper from a U.S. court, I guess, to do whatever the hell they want in some other country like Italy. But, that's just me editorializing, half joking. Italian opposition, it says, and European groups voiced outrage over ICE's reputation, though officials downplayed it as routine cooperation, with one quipping, "It's not like the SS are coming." So here's the mayor of Milan right there. ICE agents will have a security role during the upcoming Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, Rome's U.S. Embassy says. I'm surprised. Why would they send ICE? It just seems odd to me that they would get officers from that agency. Why not the FBI or some other law enforcement agency? Why ICE? Maybe to just have enough people, but it just doesn't seem appropriate. Border Patrol agents, and they're going overseas to participate in a security operation. Makes me wonder if they're even properly trained for such a thing, honestly. Something seems off with it. Trump is speaking tonight, I think. Yeah, I think he has a... where is he speaking? Is he in Ohio tonight? I think he is. Here's... on this whole ICE thing. So maybe that's why he's targeting Obama tonight. Here we go.
Didn't he? And then we turned it. Barack Hussein Obama, have you heard of him? He won both times, didn't he win both? He won twice, Barack Hussein Obama, wonderful president, really brought people together, didn't he? But Barack Obama won twice, and so everyone said, well, Iowa, they had this down as not winnable, and we won in a landslide. 3 times we won in a landslide, so... And then we turned it.
He just can't stop. Can't control himself. He's also, this is, I talk about humiliation and insults. Here he is. I think this is again tonight. Talking about Emmanuel Macron. I guess that's his style.
Well, why wouldn't I get them? And I called Macron of France. I said, you got to double the price of your drugs. He said, no, I will not do that. What was the story with his glasses the other day? What the hell was that all about? But anyway, I got them all. I don't want to go into a long story. Bottom line, I said, I'm going to increase tariffs by 25. I'm going to charge you 25% tariff if you don't do it. They said, we will do it. Why don't you ask? We'd love to do it. I will. Why wouldn't I?
Tariff. Tariffing everybody into oblivion. Tariffing everybody into oblivion. All right, taking a break. Don't go away. I think we have ostrich people in the house over in the chat. I got to look in there. Going to take a look. Hello, ostrich people. Because the ostrich story is coming up. Because the bill is in.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So Homan, I guess, has met with Walz in Minnesota. They've agreed to ongoing dialogue. Trump reshuffling the whole immigration operation there. Greg Bovino leaving Minneapolis, no longer the commander there. So he loses his title. And I'd say that that's a pivot. That's definitely a response from Trump. Because he's basically replaced Bovino with Homan. Bovino basically getting fired. That should tell you something right there. At least they're looking at this and they're going, oh, well, maybe he did screw up something. I don't know. We'll see how far this investigation goes. So Homan, Walz meet today. They're discussing things. I guess, they're trying to find a way to kind of cool things down in there. And Bovino and a bunch of others too, taking the brunt of the heat and as far as criticism because of the shootings of Renee Good, Alex Pretti. And Trump is obviously concerned about this. And it's got to be having a dramatic impact on his approval ratings. It's got to be taking a hit. This is one of the things that I think is scraping off some of the Teflon so that some stuff is beginning to stick. That's what I mean. This is maybe a milestone moment, maybe a pivotal moment, a defining moment in the Trump presidency. Things sure are weird out there, though. I mean, really freaking weird. I sometimes wonder if we just don't hear about some of the weird stuff, or if it's anomalous, as we heard that word yesterday, used to describe, was Dan Bongino saying that the shooting of Alex Pretti was anomalous, to say very unusual, hardly ever, doesn't happen, even though we've seen over a dozen people actually shot, 2 people killed. I don't think that's an anomalous thing. But is this anomalous? This one threw me for a loop. Suspect identified after BC woman says horses sexually assaulted. I'm like, what the hell is that? Now, I know people do some pretty, crazy and disgusting things. But this one? Authorities have identified a suspect after the owner of an equestrian center in BC's Okanagan alleged someone sexually assaulted her horses. What? Bestiality. Erica Van Meenen, owner of Abigail Equestrian in Vernon, shared surveillance images on social media over the weekend showing a man on her property after dark. I'm not going to show you. I'm not sharing that video. Does anyone recognize this person? She wrote Sunday. Last night he was in with my horses in the middle of the night and assaulted some horses. What a weird chain of events out in that part of Canada. Speaking to local news outlet Castanet, which covered the ostrich thing fairly extensively, Van Meenen said she believed as many as 3 horses were sexually assaulted, with surveillance cameras allegedly capturing the suspect carrying a step stool behind one of them. She called the incident both disturbing and potentially dangerous, and I would say pretty freaking disgusting. I added the last part. One kick from a horse and they could kill you. Nobody should ever be touching, oh my God, somebody else's horse, let alone going inside a paddock. Oh, am I really talking about this tonight? Yes. This is news, and this too apparently is reality. Investigators then reviewed Van Meenen's surveillance video, which revealed a criminal offense had occurred within an enclosed animal pen, the detachment said in a news release. Wow. I've heard of things with sheep, but oh my God. I could say a lot of things, but I am not going to do that. I could say things, I can make jokes, I could just express my disgust, my surprise, my shock, my horror, but I'm just going to stop talking about it and move on. Okay? Okay. I got the heebie-jeebies, baby. I am not, yeah. Jubilee says, oh my God, don't show this sick. I'm not good. Don't worry. I'm not going to show it. Not gonna show it. No way. They've got the suspect, I guess. So just, yeah, no need. CBC Brown says that horse was asking for it. Yeah, just ask Trump. It was the horse's fault. It was what he was wearing. He was asking for it. My God. Okay. What else we got going on here tonight? Shall we talk about the ostriches? Okay. Don't worry. I'm not going to go on and on about it tonight. I just know that the bill is in. And when I say the bill, the tab has been calculated. So because of the shenanigans, the circus that unfolded out at the Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, BC, oh my God, the bill. What did we end up with here? We had, according to newly released government documents today detailing the costs, the cull cost the Canadian Food Inspection Agency alone nearly $1.6 million. In addition to that, the lawyers, of course, had to get involved. So on the government side, the Department of Justice, well, the bill there, $1.3 million. And of course, we saw many, many, many RCMP officers out there. And the total bill for policing through the RCMP, over $3.8 million. Isn't that crazy? The CFIA also spent $482,000 on professional services, which include disposal of the birds, protection services, transportation of materials, cybersecurity, office security, and private veterinary services. You know, if the farm had just taken the money offered up front, I think everybody would have, in the end, maybe been better off. Well, maybe, except that it was never about the birds. They turned it into an anti-government political protest for reasons that I think I have pretty much outlined here fairly extensively. CFA also reported spending $220,000, almost $221,000 actually, for straw and delivery. And so they don't really say exactly what that was for, but it's pretty obvious they used that for those stacked bales of hay to create the pen. And then they also spent $13,780 for ostrich feed. Well, we were being told they were starving them to death, which was not true. So the total bill, about $6.7 million. Now, I know that some people will spin that and say that it's the government's fault and there was money wasted. I'll say that none of that would have been spent, and the ostriches would have, in the end, even been treated in a more humane way if the farm had been cooperative. But they were not in the end. Let's take a break. Then I'm going to take you to Ottawa, Parliament Hill again when we come back on the other side of this.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, so this was the first day of question period in 2026. So what the heck? Let's see what happened. I have not had a chance to really take a gander, but I do know that Carney and Polyev squared off for the first time in 2026 today. So let's see what the tone was like.
Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister had a photo up in a grocery store, but there was something missing. There were no prices. He asked his PMO buddies to go into the grocery store to remove all the price tags so that he could hide from Canadians how much groceries cost after 1 year, because he's doubled inflation for food, which is to the highest rate in the G7. These taxes and inflationist deficits are a hidden cost. Instead of hiding costs, why not reduce costs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Of course, that seems to be this new spirit of cooperation that we keep hearing about. Yesterday we saw cooperation. Meeting with the Premier of Ontario, for example, that was collaboration for the automotive sector, to collaborate in order to build affordable housing. I could perhaps present him to the Premier of Ontario if he wants to. He just has to let me know.
Leader of the Opposition.
Bel exemple. Well, that's a great example of this Prime Minister. It's all illusions. He has meetings instead of having results. We need results. He promised that food would be more affordable. But 1 year later, food inflation has doubled. Doubled. It's twice as much as in the States. It's the worst food inflation in the G7. And yesterday he tried to emulate this by removing price tags in grocery stores. If prices are so terrible that he needed to hide them from Canadians, is his record as terrible as that? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, over the last few months, the government has done a lot. We are working to make the school food program permanent. Second of all, we have reduced taxes for 22 million Canadians. Yesterday, we created a new benefit that will increase the amount of money in the pockets of families, up to $1,800 a year.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister held a photo op at a grocery store in front of food, but there was just one thing missing. The price tags. He had ordered his PMO staff to literally show up early at the grocery store and remove the price tags. They're back up today. We went and checked, and they're really high. In fact, grocery prices are rising faster in Canada than in any other G7 country, twice as fast as in the States, twice as fast as when he took office. Mr. Speaker, the hidden costs that this Prime Minister imposes on inflation will not go away because he tries to take down the price tag. Why won't he take down the price?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, before I had lunch with the Premier of Ontario, I had a long meeting with the Premier of Ontario. I would like to introduce the Leader of the Opposition to the Premier of Ontario so we can learn something about cooperation, cooperation on housing, cooperation on building the best auto sector in the world, cooperation on good jobs for Ontarians and Canadians, cooperations on rising wages, which have risen faster than inflation every single month of this year.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, if Canadians could eat the Prime Minister's photo op, wouldn't be an empty stomach in the country. He's had lots of meetings. He's had signing ceremonies. He's had grand announcements and new bureaucracies. But what he hasn't delivered is real results. His biggest promise was that he was going to make food prices affordable. Since that time, food inflation has doubled, the worst in the G7. It's the result of his hidden taxes, the inflation tax from his deficits, the fuel taxes on farmers, fertilizers, and farm equipment. Why won't he, instead of trying to hide the price tag, why won't he get rid of the cost?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, here's something we don't hide. Here's something we're proud of. Over 140,000 new jobs net created since the summer. More than the United States. Here's something else. Wages rising every single month of this government faster than the rate of inflation. Here's something else. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We put in place a national food program for 400,000 kids, making it permanent. Yesterday, we announced a benefit for 12 million Canadians, $1,800.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have never had it so good that 2.2 million of them are lined up at food banks. One of the reasons is that we can't get our resources to market. Now, while the Prime Minister, we worked in collaboration to give him exceptional powers to get things done. Instead, he spent the time on photo ops, signing ceremonies, re-announcing projects that had long ago been approved. His new bureaucracy, the projects office, has not approved a single new project. So why won't he get out of the way and accept our plan by passing the Canadian Sovereignty Act today?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, part of how we move this country forward is collaborating with provinces and territories. The great territory of Nunavut. I'd like to welcome the Premier of Nunavut is here. One thing we've done in 6 months is agree on Great Bay Point, which is going to open up Arctic sovereignty, open up the future of this country, make Canada strong.
I assume the Prime Minister meant that the Premier of Nunavut was in the area, not in the House. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, of course we love the Premier of Nunavut, but all the Prime Minister has is meetings, announcements, signing ceremonies, but never shovels in the ground. Never results that matter to people. Not a single pipeline approved. His project office has not approved a single new project. In fact, he hasn't removed a single pre-existing Liberal bureaucracy or single pre-existing anti-development law. All he has to do is get out of the way, adopt the Canadian Sovereignty Act so that we can get building and become self-reliant and strong.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, last time we were in this House, the member opposite stood up and had a semblance or a reduction of the MOU with Alberta. The Alberta MOU is not consistent with the Sovereignty Act. The Alberta MOU will build a pipeline to Tidewater. The Alberta MOU will build carbon capture and storage. It will build nuclear. It will build data centers. It will build our future. The Sovereignty Act will destroy it.
The honourable member for Bailey-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, okay. All right. Well, so Carney saying the MOU with Alberta will build the country by building the pipelines and building power infrastructure, nuclear, etc. He says the Sovereignty Act would destroy the country. I can understand the argument. Don't know if it would actually play out that way. Maybe we'll have to look at that in more depth in the nights ahead. You know, what's not getting a lot of attention right now is the war in Ukraine. It seems to have fallen off the radar. People, I guess, getting tired of it. But what I thought we would do tonight is, well, I thought we'd do a little scroll on the Russian side, the Ukrainian side, see what's going on, making headlines in Russia and Ukraine, compare. First RT, Russia Today. What are they saying over there? U.S. launches military readiness drills in the Middle East. They're obviously concerned about what Trump is doing over there in the oil-rich Middle East. Ukraine expects to join EU next year, according to Zelensky in this report. America first in uniform. CIA setting up outpost in Venezuela. That's from CNN. They're quoting CNN. EU, a trampled worm, according to a veteran German politician on this headline. What else do they have? Anthropic boss issues warning about unimaginable power of artificial intelligence. We might take a look at that in the nights ahead, too. And is Trump facing a civil war in Minneapolis? So they're zeroed in on that. It's amazing, you know, even over in Russia, they pay so much attention to the United States. Every country, the entire world, focused on Donald Trump, his administration. U.S. Treasury dumps contractor after Trump tax data leak. Hadn't heard about that over here. Russia is a reliable partner on global food market, it says here. France and EU clash over UK missiles for Ukraine. Okay, EU can't defend itself without US, says NATO chief. I know that Mark Rutte has been defending Trump, too, in the last couple of days. NATO developing AI-powered hot zone along Russia border. Drones, AI. There's even credible evidence, credible reports that, yes, they even have AI that can predict the future. How would they do that? I don't think it's far-fetched at all. It's just predictive programming, essentially. Looking at the current situation, taking an assessment of where troops are, resources, etc., and then AI can sort of predict what the enemy might do. So warfare is taking on a completely different, it's being shaped entirely differently heading into the future. Here's the Kyiv Independent. Let's take a look at this. Ukraine war latest, Russian drones strike passenger train in Kyiv Oblast, 2 injured. Hungary summons Ukrainian ambassador over election interference claims. Ukraine's ambassador to Hungary was summoned to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Budapest January 27th as Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó accused Kyiv of interfering in Hungary's upcoming parliamentary elections. That's interesting. And I could see there being motive there for that. Is it true? Don't know. Lukashenko must be held accountable, this headline says, for complicity in Russia's war. Foreign Minister says Belarus is complicit in Russia's invasion of Ukraine and that Kyiv is preparing sanctions against Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko to hold him accountable for supporting the war. And Ukraine sees shift in Russia's peace talks delegation as pseudo-historical lectures end, Foreign Minister says. Quote, these are different people. The conversations were very focused. Yeah, there has been a little bit of a change there. Ukraine sees shift in Russia's peace talks. Yeah. U.S. source denies forcing Ukraine on territory as reports tie security guarantees to Donbass ceding. As an additional incentive, the U.S. has reportedly offered Ukraine more weapons to equip its army in the post-war period. So the talks have been going on. That's why I was kind of interested to see what the headlines would say tonight, because I know that there have been talks, right? But this time around, I don't know if it's just because people are getting tired of it, or if it's because the talks are not expected to succeed. There just has not been much coverage, or maybe it's because we're seeing all of this insanity on the streets, this chaos in the US, in Minnesota, and beyond. And so it's just distracting people, I guess. Now, I was talking about again what's been going on the streets and the shootings, the 2 deaths. No, there's just no question that the Trump administration has been trying to spin a narrative to justify what the officers did, even calling Alex Pretti an assassin. Some of the rhetoric, honestly, has been just way over the top. But today, Trump, just pivoting back to it here near the end, Trump today distancing himself from those comments. So I guess even some people in his own administration are too extreme, even for Trump, because I think it was Stephen Miller who called Alex Pretti an assassin. Some people think he's really, really smart. I think that Stephen Miller has just gone too far again.
Sir, was Mr. Pretti acting as an assassin? Do you think he was acting as an assassin in Minneapolis?
Who is that?
Mr. Pretti, your deputy chief of staff said that. You don't think so?
With that being said, you know, you can't have guns. You can't walk in with guns.
What about the Second Amendment?
You can't walk in with guns. You can't do that. But it's just a very unfortunate incident.
So yeah, this was actually a cleaner clip of what we played for you earlier, but you can hear the audio there. He says you can't walk in with guns. Trump has actually said in the past, he's come out with some comments that have not been fully supportive of, gun rights. He's expressed concerns about it. I don't think that he's the gun-slinging, gun-loving, gun-toting president that a lot of people on the MAGA side think he is. I think he would be open, honestly, because he was at one time, he was a Democrat, and I think that he would be open to gun control legislation in the United States, more so than you think. I don't think he's as pro-gun as you think he is. Unless, of course, he's blowing up boats off the coast of Venezuela. I guess there are, what was that about? There's some lawsuits. First lawsuit being launched against Trump. Lawsuit. Because of the first wrongful death lawsuit filed against Trump. So it's this is a brand new story just breaking tonight as well. Because you have 2 families of 2 Trinidadian men who were killed back in October in one of those strikes against an alleged narco-terrorist drug boat. But of course, no evidence, and there's no evidence left because the boat got blown to bits. The family members of those 2 men killed in that strike back in October, one of them, I think it was October 14th, they're accusing the government, Trump, suing them for a wrongful death and extrajudicial killings. So the lawsuit is the first of its kind to be filed against Trump and his administration in federal court in the U.S. because of its military campaign against the alleged drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean Sea and the Eastern Pacific Ocean. Chad Joseph, 26 years old, and Rish Samaru, 41. They're the men killed in the U.S. military strike back in October. They were on that boat traveling from Venezuela to Trinidad, their family members say, in this lawsuit. The lawsuit says that Joseph and Samaru, and these are words directly out of the lawsuit, saying, had been fishing in waters off the Venezuelan coast and working on farms in Venezuela. It says they were returning to their homes in Trinidad and Tobago when their boat was struck and sunk. So Hegseth Trump said that the strike killed all on board. There were 6 people on board that boat. And Trump described them as 6 male narco-terrorists. Trump went on to say that the boat was affiliated with a designated terrorist organization and that it was trafficking narcotics. And that was the 5th boat that had been struck and sunk in that series of attacks on such boats. Those attacks now, I think, have killed about 120, 125 people in total. And again, limited information, videos, grainy videos at that, released, but not a lot in details or proof. That's, for me, very concerning. So it continues. We didn't even get into too much of what's going on with the Alberta separatist movement tonight, but like everything else, it's all interconnected. And I think we'll have more to say about that later this week as well. But the focus today was on largely trade and Carney's comments in Davos. Again, yeah, he ruffled some feathers there, didn't he? Yes. Did he walk those comments back? I don't think so. He's just being very diplomatic. Tonight, when I was making the thumbnail for the program, I was going to put images up, and the word that came to mind was humiliator. Thinking sort of like Dale Earnhardt, NASCAR. They called him the Intimidator. Trump's style, the style of his administration, is to insult people, belittle them, try to embarrass them. That's what Besant was doing in a very public way on Fox News with Sean Hannity. And I don't think that was the only place he was making these comments about Carney. Oh, yeah, Carney, he made these comments in Davos, but then I was there and I heard him, and he was walking it all back aggressively. Was he really? Because you got to make people feel small, I guess, when you are negotiating from maybe a position of weakness. If you're really that strong, you don't need to behave that way. Something's wrong. Or maybe they're just cruel. Whatever it is, it's just nasty. And it's damaging the reputation of the United States. A country with the world reserve currency. And you know, everything about the U.S. economy, everything, and I could get into the technical side of it, but it really comes down to this. The United States, their economy, it is dependent on confidence. The existence of the United States is dependent on trust. People need trust that when a deal is made, they're going to stick to it. Then that when a promise is made, they're going to stick to it. If a defense guarantee is made, that they're going to stick to it. If they sign a contract, that they'll stick to it. That if you have a US dollar in hand, there's something there to back that up, like real resiliency and strength, economic strength. Not gold, it's not there. It's based on confidence, trust, the entire economy, the military, the security of the world, really. And that's falling apart. And you know why? Because of the attitude. Because of the insults. The overconfidence. The hubris. May well be the undoing of the United States and Donald Trump. Trumpzilla. Be careful, Canada. You might get stomped. But hey, I'd rather get stomped standing up than get stomped on my knees or something. I don't know. I'll have to figure out what to say for tomorrow, because we will be back with more about this crazy, zany, upside-down Trump world at 7 p.m. Eastern. See you then on the flip side.
Rising from the blast, forged in fire.
Well, it's got stuck. Hang on.
Storming the swamp, taking it higher. Walls come down, cities quake. No one stops him, no mistake. He's mean, he's green, he's a nuclear machine.
Godzilla.
He's mean, he's green, he's a nuclear machine. Atomic roar, breath of flame. Foes run scared, screaming his name. Drains the swamp, turns them to ash. He'll fry your ass in a nuclear flash. He's mean, he's green, he's a nuclear machine. Trumpzilla. He's mean, he's green, he's a nuclear machine. Trumpzilla.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.